The latest Washington Post Ipsos poll spells trouble for Biden. Unfortunately, this is an ongoing theme when it comes to this general election. This particular poll, though, hyper focuses on the black vote and especially black voters under the age of 30 who have really lost favor toward Biden. Now, the poll indicates that a smaller percentage of black voters plan to cast a ballot this time around compared to 2020. So not only is Biden losing support among black voters, but there's an even smaller percentage of black voters who plan to vote in general. So the poll of more than 1,300 black adults finds that 62% of black Americans say they're absolutely certain to vote, which is down from 74% in June of 2020. The 12 percentage point drop outpaces the 4-point drop among Americans overall from 72% to 68%. So again, not only has Biden lost support among key voters in the Democratic Party, there's just a smaller percentage of Democratic voters who plan to vote to begin with. Now, Biden's support rises to 78% among black voters ages 40 to 64 and 88% among those 65 years and older. So there is a little bit of a generation gap here because when it comes to younger voters, that's where Biden really does run into problems, especially when it comes to black voters. So 74% of black registered voters say they will definitely or probably vote for Biden. So to be clear, the majority of black voters still support Biden. Just 14% of black voters say they would definitely or probably support Trump. That is smaller than Trump's black support in some recent national and state polls, though it would still mark a slight improvement from his performance in 2020. And if you can recall, Trump did increase his support among black voters in the 2020 general election. Now, why have black voters soured on Joe Biden? Well, it's because Biden hasn't delivered on some of his key promises, including the voting rights bill, which I knew was eventually gonna come back and hurt Biden. They're also unhappy with how Biden has handled the war in Gaza, and they feel that the resources that are being sent to Israel would be better used to improve the lives of Americans here in America. And many also talked about inflation, especially when it comes to the costs of groceries.
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you.
Now, the Washington Post tried to find some silver linings here. I'll tell you how in just a moment. But Cenk, where Biden has seen the biggest drop among support among black voters is those 30 years and younger. That is where people are really starting to sour on Biden.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different things here. First of all, the Democrats these days are basically just going with negative campaigning. And look, I get it, they're not alone. Republicans have been doing that for a long, long time. But so we recently showed you a clip where they were explaining how now they're gonna plant negative stories about RFK Jr. in the press, because that's the only go-to move they have. And 80% of mainstream press is just negative Trump stories. So that's the Democrat strategy. I would propose a strategy that would get these voters back and excited, making the chance of winning much more likely. And that's actually delivering on your promises. But I know for the Democratic leadership, that is unthinkable. For mainstream media, they think that is so outrageous to expect politicians to deliver on their promises. Joe Biden delivered on 10 to 15% of his promises. Brother, that means you're bragging about lying 85 to 90% of the time.
Yep.
And they genuinely think it's outrageous to expect them to actually do anything. So for example, one of the bare minimums was voting rights. And they told the African-American community in the country, give us the 2 Georgia seats. You guys remember that clearly, right?
The runoff elections.
The runoff elections. Give us, if Ossoff and Reverend Warnock win, we're definitely getting you voting rights. And then they didn't even try. They lamely put it in a bill. And then Manchin said, get the hell out of here. I'm not giving black people voting rights. And Sinema was like, yeah, me too, okay? Yep. And they were like, right away, sir, we drop it right away. Who cares? Who cares about black people anyway? But I think that's actually the second largest issue. I think the largest issue is that for under 30-year-olds, they're getting actual information and not TV propaganda. So since they're getting actual information, they know, wait a minute, I'm not the crazy one for thinking housing prices are higher and student debt is higher and my wages are lower and my productivity is not being returned to me from these corporations. We live under corporate rule. I see that clear as day. It's confirmed by actual facts I'm seeing in social media. Whereas on TV, they're like, the status quo is great. Do not rebel, do not rebel. And under 30-year-olds, both white and black and every other race are going, oh, I get it now. You guys are liars.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, you see the difference in the age groups clearly here. Let's go to graphic 5, where the Post writes that today just about half of black people in their 30s approve of Biden, 51%.
That is a terrible number.
That is so bad. Let that sink in. And this is what happens when the party takes the votes of a specific demographic for granted. Eventually, the chickens are gonna come home to roost, and that is what you are experiencing here. Let me read the rest of that information to you. So ratings rise to 59%, which still isn't so great. Among those in their 40s, 72% among those ages 50 to 64, and 85% among black adults ages 65 and older. And I do think Cenk makes a good point in regard to the media diet of these different age groups. The older you are, the more likely you are to rely on television news, cable news in order to get your information. And if you're watching MSNBC, well, you might be under the impression that Biden's doing a bang up job and everything is fine. But younger people are a little more plugged in and they have a little more of a diverse media diet and they're kind of seeing what the facade is and they're not buying it.
Yeah, and so there's a little bit of nuance there. First, I want to just double down on what Anna said because the black vote in favor of Democrats used to be over 90%. And not like in the 1960s, no, in the last several elections. I mean, Biden has taken the black vote off of a cliff. And it's not just the black vote, it's also the Latino vote. So we've been screaming on this show, please deliver for them. I'm begging you deliver for them. We're not asking for some crazy progressive agenda. There is no crazy progressive agenda anyway in terms of economic issues, but we're just asking you to do the bare minimum Democratic agenda. Stop lying to them. What do Latino voters want? Well, just read the polls. You don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to take anybody else's word for it. They want higher paying jobs and they want health care. What do you mean? Oh, everything's about identity politics. We said we like brown people. You idiots. Read the poll. They want jobs, better paying jobs, health care, and you're not giving it to them. Why are you not giving it to them? Because your corporate donors own you. They own you completely. And guys, last thing that's so important, this is where the nuance is. This is not Trump versus Biden. Whether you're talking about younger black voters or anyone else, they're not saying, oh my God, I fell in love with Trump, okay? No, this is them realizing, oh, both sides are full of crap. Because why did Biden win the 2020 election? Because younger voters showed up in bigger numbers than they ever have. Why did they show up to vote against Trump? Because they were seeing the reality of Trump. TV also agreed in that case, but social media showed you what Trump really was. And younger voters were like, I don't want that. So they went and voted against him. Now they're seeing the reality of Biden, and a lot of them are saying, well, I don't want that either. And so they're largely gonna stay home, and when they do, Biden's gonna have no chance of winning. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.